Hey, it's Brian with the Midnight Mechanic. One of the things you'll probably end up having to do on your car at some point is replace the oxygen sensor. They're wear items, they always go bad as they get higher in mileage, and on my brother's 2012 Grand Cherokee, it has a bad rear oxygen sensor. We're going to replace them as a pair, and we're going to show you the tools you need to do it. There's a lot of different tools you can use to replace the oxygen sensor in your car. The first thing you probably need to do is to soak it down in some penetrating oil. We like to use this PB Blaster. It works really well. Some people like some other stuff. This has always worked really well for us. Go ahead and soak this down way before you're going to take it out. Leave it some time to soak down in there. If it's very easy to get to your oxygen sensor, you can use a standard oxygen sensor socket. The way this works is it slides over the wiring and you can turn it off this way. Now this is just a regular 3/8 inch socket. So you can use a regular ratchet, a little breaker bar. If you need a little bit extra, you could put maybe a pipe on the end. We have an adapter to run it to 1/2 inch. That way we could use a ratchet on there, or we can go with the bigger breaker bar. Now, if you don't have this socket, you could also use just a regular old deep socket. What you do with this is you'd snip the wiring off very close, and then you could use that on there without having to worry about the wiring. Now, on our Grand Cherokee, it's even more difficult because we can't get either one of these on the socket because of clearance issues. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to snip off the wiring and then use this to come down and put it on there and hopefully get enough leverage to turn it off. That's why we're soaking it down with this ahead of time. Hopefully we can get this to work. If not, we'll get a little bit creative, adding a little bar to the end of it maybe to get a little leverage, but this should work. Just be careful and take your time. Make sure you don't round it off and cause any other problems. On the driver's side of the Jeep, the oxygen sensor is in the catalytic converter. If you look up there, the plug is kind of deep in there, but you can get your hand up in there. I'm not going to show a video of it because it's so tight that my big hand is going to get up there and you won't be able to see anything anyway. So I'm going to stick my hand up there, unplug that, and it's extremely tight here. So we're going to have to get a little bit creative. I'll show you how to do that. So in this one here, we actually got a little bit lucky because it appears as if someone had already started to take this off or something because it was very loose. But what we're actually going to do is I'm going to cut off that harness, which will allow me to get a box end wrench in there. Through the magic of video editing, now you can see it's on there. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off. Now that it's loose, you can just turn it off. There's the old one, and you could see the bung to install the new one. Here's the new oxygen sensor. It has a cap on here because it has anti-seize on it. If you get this on your fingers, you'll end up looking like the Tin Man. It'll come off, but just be careful because you want as much of that stay on the threads as possible. All right, so I'm going to take the new oxygen sensor, get it in that bung and start to screw it in. Don't force it. You don't want to strip those threads because then you'll have to have an exhaust shop fix it. This wiring will obviously twist as you do it and it'll be extremely annoying, but just keep working it around like that. So now that we have it hand tight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box end wrench and use this to tighten it down. that'll be fine hand tight, not hand tight. That'll be fine using that box end wrench to do that. You won't need to use the socket because once you get it that tight, it should stay in there. Now we'll stick our hand up in there. You can see that plug and plug that in. Again, I'm not going to show it because it's so far up there that you won't be able to see it with my hand. Just be sure you have it all tucked away from the exhaust and anything else hot or moving so that wiring does not get damaged. The hardest part of this entire process is getting your hand blindly up there to plug it in. If you have maybe little arms, you might be able to get both up in there. I obviously do not, so it was very difficult, but I got it done, tucked all out of the way. Now we move on to the passenger side. On the passenger side, it's a little easier to get to that rear oxygen sensor. Getting to the plug is a lot easier. You don't have to get your hand all the way up there above the transmission. And it's easier to get to this, although there's still some clearance issues and we're still gonna have to use that wrench to get it off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and come up here and unplug this and then cut the wiring off and put that wrench on here. Now that I have it unplugged, I'm gonna snip this wiring harness off. That way I can get the wrench down here to get it on here to where I can put a little bit of pressure and turn it off. Now that it's loose, I can come in here, turn it off by hand. With the old oxygen sensor out, we can go ahead and put the new one in there. Make sure you have it straight in there before you tighten it to make sure you don't strip it out and make it harder for you or the next guy. Make sure you get it plenty tight. After that, you can go up and plug it back in. With it plugged in and installed, I went ahead and I put a little zip tie around the extra wiring just to keep it off of the exhaust, to keep it from getting damaged or melted. Not a very difficult repair. It's just not very fun to be working under there in those tight quarters with rusty exhaust work. But if you can get it done, it'll help your gas mileage and get rid of those pesky check engine lights. Now, if you have anything else you'd like to learn about, any other tools you'd like to see, post down below in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Midnight Mech, TikTok at The Midnight Mechanic. Check our other page, Third Pedal Engineering, and we'll see you guys next time.